Hello, Tim from Fair Play Now on the 19th of June 2023. So, saw a good video over breakfast from Lee of the Veritas Vincit channel. That was a good one, but what I'm going to talk about is a comment that I saw under that video. It was from, I think it was a lady, and she said that during the height of the nonsense back in 2020, I suppose we're talking about, she was in a shop and she got shouted at from someone at the back of the shop just because she wasn't following the little sort of footstep things, you know, the silly one-way systems they had in shops during the height of the silliness, and she was going the wrong way and got shouted at. So I thought, yeah, that would prompt a video from me of a kind of naming and shaming thing, where I'm going to, just describe the worst two instances of that kind of thing that I got. And it might not be the most charitable thing to do, but I'll come on to why it's important to come out with these stories and remember these stories anyway. But let's get into the two instances. To be fair, these are really the only two things like that I ever got personally. Most other people, when they were trying to enforce their silliness on me, did it pretty politely, and as and when I refused, they didn't really kind of do anything else. But we are going right back to 2020, when I think it was at its height. And the first place, I had to go into this little electrical wholesaler in Haywards Heath. And I'm not going to name names, but if you know Haywards Heath, you'll know this place, I'm sure. But I went in there, and normally they've got a fairly decent sized trade counter bit where you go in, and that was closed. So we're talking about around about this time in 2020. And I had to go in there for a couple of bits. And they had another much smaller trade counter area around the side. So I went round there and I went to go in. And as soon as I go in, there's these two guys being served, customers, and also two guys behind the counter doing the serving. And both of these guys behind the counter were older guys, probably my age or even a bit older than me maybe. And I'm not sure if it was one of them or both of them just started shouting at me, "Get out, get out of the shop." I'm sort of, why? And there's two people in there already. Can't you see? There's two people, and you're only allowed to come in here. We've got a maximum of two people allowed in here. So go outside, wait outside. And very unpleasant, done in a very unpleasant way, I must say. So I go outside, but I'm only just outside the door, and standing there, mainly so I could see in to see when one of these customers were going to leave. And one of these guys behind the counter then starts shouting at me again, "Can you move away from the door? Move away from the door!" And I'm sort of, how do you expect anyone to come past you, when you're standing that near to the door? And then I just sort of said back to him, "Well, when I see someone coming towards me, I'll move out of the way, won't I?" Kind of thing, in a very shirty way, which he thoroughly deserved. And I just could not believe this bloke's attitude. He was just insane with the nonsense, I guess. And I know a lot of people watching this will be saying, "Tim, you should have just walked away from that place." And to be fair, I probably would have done. I'd have probably driven 5 miles out my way now. But back then, I guess I was in a hurry and I needed the bits. Although, to add insult to injury, when I finally got in and got served by this idiot, they didn't even have what I needed in stock anyway, so it was just a totally fruitless mission. So that just angered me even more, really. But anyway, I know a lot of people will say, I'd have just gone and never given them my business again, which I didn't for about 2 years, or 3 years. It's only been in recent times that I've been back in there just to get a couple of bits, which this time they did actually have. And I'm delighted to say that the two older idiots, who frankly I don't know who they were, I'd never seen them in that place before and never seen them in there since. The couple of times I've been in there recently, there's a far younger guy serving and he was perfectly fine, perfectly reasonable bloke. So yeah, that was a funny little incident. And then even more bizarre, I was up in kind of the outer edges of South London. If you know that area, you'll probably know a place called Coulsdon. And if you know Coulsdon, you'll know of a timber yard sort of place. Can't miss it if you know the place, because it's kind of on the corner of a couple of busy roads. I'm sure you'll know the place if you know the area. Anyway, I'm doing this woodworking project round at my mum's for her, and I had to go and get some timber. So the first time I go down there, I go up to the gate and into the yard. Now, if you've never been to a timber yard before, basically you've got the sort of open air yard kind of area, and then you've normally got kind of an enclosed warehouse bit where they store the timber, etc., and plasterboard that can't be exposed to the rain. And then they've also got the shop bit where you get your tools and your nails and your screws, and where you pay. So there's 3 sections to them. So I'm going into the open air yard bit the first time, and the guy sort of comes up to me and goes, "Oh yeah, how can I help you?" And he gets the wood I need, and I go in to the shop. He gives me a ticket. I go into the shop. I think I probably got a couple more things in the shop as well, and paid, and off I went, perfectly happy. And then, as you often get with these projects, you find out that you've forgotten, or you need just a little bit more stuff. So I had to go back down there for just a little bit more timber to finish the project off later on. But this time, as I'm going in through the gate into the yard, the same bloke comes up to me and he's shouting away, "You can't come in here, you can't come in, stay outside the gate, stay on the pavement." In a real shirty way. And I'm sort of, "Mate, why? I've just been in here a couple of hours ago, and it's all right then. What's the difference now?" And he goes, "Well, can't you see I've got a customer this time. I'm serving him. You've got to wait outside until I've served him, and I'll come and get you and allow you to enter the yard." And he was just so insane with the nonsense. It is just unbelievable to witness. And when you bear in mind, A, we're outside in this yard bit, B, he's a young, fit, strong bloke, because he's kind of humping sort of bits of timber around all day long and that kind of thing. And he's about the last person who would succumb to the lurgy, I'd have thought. And yet he was just just utterly brainwashed, wasn't he? But it was absolutely bizarre. And I haven't been back to that place. And yes, I did complete my business there again. Again, I know viewers will say to me, "Tim, you should have just walked away and never given them your business ever again," or that time. Well, I did give it that time, but I'm pretty sure I haven't been back there since. Don't particularly want to. But yeah, you might think I'm being uncharitable naming and shaming these places, because if you know these areas, you'll know where these places are. It could be these guys, certainly in the first place, the electrical place. It doesn't seem like those blokes are even there anymore. But I'm not telling you to boycott these places. But, we need to remember this kind of thing, because, a lot of us now think, I think it's pretty obvious and pretty clear that the lurgy wasn't nearly what it was cracked up to be, not nearly as deadly as what it was cracked up to be. But even if it was, that does not give you the excuse or the right to start acting like some kind of fascist brown shirt. You still need to be civil to people, treat people with respect, and not just go shouting at them. And believe you me, we were well on our way up the rungs of the ladder that leads to things like, well, things like we saw in the Second World War. Not obviously we didn't get anywhere like that far, of course. And if it's a ladder if it's like a 10-rung ladder with the 10th rung being gas chambers and concentration camps, we were probably getting up to sort of rung number 2, 3, maybe even 4 briefly, when they brought in the Plan B, which included tyranny passes and then Johnson was talking about the necessity to have a national conversation about excluding certain people from society. So yeah, we were probably on rung 4, I would say. And luckily we're now back down to the bottom of the ladder. Well, I say that, we might still be on one or 2 rungs up, but in a slightly different way now, which I'll come on to. But yeah, we need to make sure, and we need to remember this kind of thing. We can forgive. Yeah, that would be charitable to forgive. I've forgiven the people in both of those places I've mentioned. I know they were sort of misguided, sort of brainwashed, and yeah, but I'm not going to forget, and we should never forget, because if we do forget, it's just going to happen again. And this time, who knows how far up the ladder we might get. So, it can't be forgotten. And if you've got stories like this where you had horrible treatment from places, leave it in the comment section below, or email them through to me if you like. It'd be great to hear. So, talking about builders, merchants, and this kind of thing, this kind of thing is almost still happening, but in a slightly different way. I don't know if you've heard this story about Wicks. If you haven't, I'll leave a link to a video which will fill you in on the story a lot more, so you can watch that. But basically, the head man at Wicks was on some kind of podcast thing, and he was saying that if people believe that there's only 2 genders, then I think they're a bigot and they're not welcome in my stores. That's literally what he said. And there's been a bit of a storm about it, and I think people are probably starting to boycott Wicks, and no doubt their bottom line will be harmed by those silly comments. And I think if people have these sort of views, when you're in business, yes, you're entitled to your views, but you should, when it comes to your business, you should just stick to your business and keep your views to yourself, I think, and not be making silly statements like that. So, that was a story that proves that this kind of thinking, this sort of brown shirt type of thinking, hasn't gone away. It's shifted, but it hasn't gone away, I think. So, yeah, I don't know what you think about all of this. Leave a comment in the comment section below. If you've got any comments to say about Wicks, or indeed about the other things I've been talking about, I'm sure there'll be a few choice comments about Wicks. By the way, if you're from abroad, Wicks is kind of a DIY builders, merchant type of place that sort of stocks all sorts of things like tools and paint and timber and wood and all that kind of thing, tiles and what have you, just to fill you in on that. But anyway, I think their business is going to be suffering in the coming weeks and months. I'll leave it there. Tim from Fair Play Now. Thanks for watching.